Welcome to Business Spotlight. I am Rob Andrew, and today I am delighted to be joined by Claudia Gasson from Ortus Talent. Good afternoon, Claudia.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me, Rob.
Well, thank you for joining us. Let's start perhaps, Claudia, with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure thing. So my background is primarily within sales and recruitment. So I started in recruitment about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that now. And essentially my career has spanned working for either software businesses in sales and customer success, and also in recruitment globally. So I've worked in Australia, I've worked in Vancouver and London, and I'm now based in Brighton. I decided to launch Ortus Talent about 2.5 years ago, and essentially we provide talent services to mainly tech startups across Europe, US and Singapore. So we hire for commercial talent predominantly, so sales, marketing, customer success, that kind of thing. And I decided to start the business on the basis of there being not a lot of opportunity for females within tech sales, having been there myself. And I really wanted to help shift the needle with diversity within that kind of environment. And I thought that, being at the front of recruitment would be able to help with that. So yes, here we are today. We're a team of 4 and have had a wild 2.5 years in that time.
Wow. Wow. So not only is it tough launching in the first place, but 2.5 years ago, pandemic?
Oh, yes. Pandemic. I started in lockdown in 2021 in March. I think we were in the second lockdown by that point, or maybe third. I can't even remember now, but I just moved to Brighton and was living alone in a flat by myself, and I couldn't speak to anybody on a daily basis because I didn't have family immediately living with me, and that was definitely a test on my mental health and resilience for sure, in order to get my feet off the ground, especially in a market where it was really tough in terms of hiring. But I could just see a little trend of things coming back in the market, and I decided just to quit my job, go for it and see what would happen. And so here we are today.
Well, fantastic. And that's really brave as well. I mean, that takes some courage. So really, yeah, well done. Well, tell me a little bit about the journey then, those 2.5 years. What's it been like?
Well, where to start really? So I started off as myself. I kind of worked embedded to begin with as a talent partner for a business, because I got an initial they wanted to do a 3-month contract. And at the same time, once I'd launched and put up onto LinkedIn a post to say, exactly my mission, that I'm trying to help shift the needle for females in tech. A regional director from Bolt, so they're kind of like the competitor to Uber, saw the post. She messaged me saying, Claudia, I've got 25 jobs, can you help me? And I was like, whoa. I wasn't expecting that to happen probably a month in. So off the back of that, I couldn't do all those hires myself, so I decided to hire my colleague Simona, who's still working with me. Simona is actually based in the Philippines, but has an incredible background in HR and recruitment. So she's based remotely as a digital nomad there. And then I decided to hire another person in probably October. So it was probably 6-7 months in, just due to we kept on getting so many roles in that we needed another hire. So I made another hire, another digital nomad as well. So she was working remotely from Spain, from the Maldives, from all over the place. So essentially I set up a remote first business. I hired even more last year. We had lots and lots of projects going all across the world, from the US to Singapore to all over Eastern Europe even. So we placed people in Hungary, in Lithuania, in Poland, in Amsterdam, London, where else? Lots of other locations, even like Rome, Spain, all over the place. So within that time, now coming up to now, I've hired quite a few people, and then probably at the end of last year, beginning of this year, the market really started to turn. We really capitalized on loads of hiring last year globally, and then economic headwinds came in and really affected us. So we work a lot with VC-backed businesses who, so venture capital backed, for those who don't know, who are heavily funded and heavily reliant on that funding in order to get their feet off the ground. Companies like Klarna started to, I guess, tumble and fall, and there were a lot in the press, and then a lot of things like inflation and things like that came into play, and all the VCs and venture capitals decided to essentially cut all that funding, stop investing in these businesses, and also telling all of their portfolio companies to really, well, battle the hatches and essentially just really cost cut, which resulted in lots of redundancies across the tech industry globally, and hundreds of thousands of people have been made redundant, and also in that time it's really impacted the industry essentially, so no one's hiring it really that much this year. So I had to reduce down headcount we had a team of 6 and I had to reduce everyone down, so it was just a couple of us. I've managed to rehire one now since this year, but to be honest, making those redundancies so early on was horrendous for me and for everyone involved in that. It was a really hard time, and then we tried to recover in that meantime, and then we did the same revenue in Q3 as we did this last year, so we managed to pull things back with the smaller team, which is brilliant. And I just managed to hire someone else, so we're back to a team of 4, which is great. So I'm hoping that we're on an upward trajectory from here.
Excellent. Yes. Well, let's hope so. Positive thinking. Can I take you back to your vision with regards to diversity and enabling more women to get into the tech industry? So in terms of your position of that, because that can't be easy to know how to position it without restricting your ability to grow. So can you just walk me through how it really works when talking to a customer?
Well, that's a great question. So ultimately we just have a focus on, because obviously you can't discriminate either way when you are recruiting and hiring. So we try to implement like diversity sourcing strategies. So for example, on LinkedIn, that you can have restrictions on, they have a tool whereby you can't see names and things like that, where for example some bias might come into play. So we utilize tools like that. We also try to get involved in communities. So there are women in tech sales communities, and we're actually trying to launch one ourselves in Q1 to really help provide a platform and a safe space for females in tech to be able to learn from other people's experiences, get some mentoring, and really to provide some content around, even things like how to negotiate a pay rise, because specifically within, it's statistically proven that women are obviously paid less per pound or per dollar or per euro than their male counterparts. And so it's about providing that content so that women are able to then ask when their counterparts may have done. It's just little bits of content like that can really hopefully just shift the needle and provide a lot more confidence to women in tech.
That's excellent. So you're not only positioning, but you're providing support as well that will help with their development as well, and for their future careers. So that's great. That's great. Recruitment is obviously a very busy space. So how? Obviously there's diversity, but in terms of how do you beat your competitors?
Great question. So there's a few elements here. I would say that because I do have a global team and we do work with a lot of global businesses, it does really help in terms of things like time zones. So we're able to tap into talent. For example, there are UK businesses that try to work US time zones, but it means that if you're working in San Francisco or the West Coast, you're working till 11 p.m. at night. And that's obviously not conducive all the time. So for example, I have Simona in the Philippines. She can work She can capture both the APAC market, obviously from there, so Singapore, which is a big tech hub, but also in addition to that, she can tackle the West Coast as well in her mornings and their evenings, which is great. And then I can do the rest, I guess, from here. And then my team are also remotely distributed in different time zones, so that's quite handy. So that helps on the global front. The fact that we worked also in roles that we're hiring for gives us that competitive edge, because we worked in tech companies, we understand how they all work and how they operate. One other thing is that at the end of the day, we have all been sort of award-winning recruiters ourselves in a previous life, and has enabled us to, I guess, be incredibly good at what we do. But also in addition to that, we've also worked in-house. So we've also worked embedded in-house as talent partners for companies. So we understand how the talent acquisition function works internally, and completely appreciate the relationship and the balance that is needed between agencies and in-house talent teams. So that's probably the crux of it.
Excellent. You've got it all from the mix and be able to cover the globe 24 hours a day. So brilliant. And that leads me maybe to the next question in terms of your team. What qualities do you look for when recruiting to fill those positions, to ensure that you can maintain your vision and deliver what you need to deliver?
So I would probably say integrity, professionalism, like understanding and holding the value of diversity within their heart themselves, and also, it goes without saying, having experience within the market is pretty crucial. I've hired some people who have been new to recruitment, and it hasn't necessarily been so effective because maybe they don't have that ability to learn through osmosis from being in an office with someone, which is something that you do crucially need, I think, having learned this from this experience. So I think those are probably the key elements. Yeah.
Understood. And this is really interesting. I'm going to dig a bit deeper in terms of the values, because I mean, obviously that's very important. And you mentioned integrity, professionalism. So when you're going through your interview process, what are you really asking?
Well, one of the key questions actually that I ask for everyone that I find really interesting is, can you tell me a time that you failed? It's a really good question to understand how they answer the question. So for example, if they do use a technique, for example, so STAR, so situation, task, action and result. So if they are structured enough to be able to answer in that capacity, but also it just shows you so much about, what someone considers as a failure, how big it is, how small it is, and if they are willing and vulnerable enough to demonstrate how much they have failed, and also what they've done to rectify that, and then the result of that. And then the key thing, honestly, is the learning, wanting to learn about how they've managed to overcome something from that. And I should have mentioned resilience because as one of my first questions, because that is a question that really assesses that. And your ability to move forward, because in recruitment you get told no all the time, and you get told no, it is a sales job at the end of the day, and you get told no from trying to win clients. You get candidates rejecting offers, pulling out of processes, all these types of crazy stories come out in recruitment, and it's all about making sure that you have the ability to just pull your socks up and crack on. So that is a great question for asking and assessing resilience and how people overcome obstacles.
I mean, that's great. Resilience. That's so useful. Absolutely. I'm sure our listeners are going to be impressed about that. Obviously, you talked a little bit earlier about the economic climate and the impact that's had on your business, but recruitment in the tech industry in general. If you look a bit further forward, what do you foresee then as as your biggest challenges will appear perhaps over the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, well, I think AI is something not to be sniffed at. There are so many tools at the moment that are coming out in the market, utilizing AI, and even down to being able to automate writing job adverts, automating all the processes, all the manual admin processes. We utilize quite a lot at the moment, even down to when you're trying to win a new client and you're sending out bespoke prospect emails, rather than using a tool like, for example, an Apollo, whereby you'll be sending out 200 emails a day, which is just blanket, like, hi, so and so, this is who I am. Instead, it's really important to personalize everything, especially like candidate outreach when you're doing headhunting, and in addition to that, in sales emails. So there are tools that are coming out in the market which is utilizing AI in order to personalize. So it might just grab information from the internet, or even if you put it into ChatGPT and say, get me some information on this person, or you can just Google them. But there's ways to integrate everything now, so it goes into an automated flow. And I think everyone's inboxes are getting so noisy at the moment, especially senior level stakeholders. So, and there'll be ways to identify what is real and what is not. So I don't know, it's going to be a whole minefield. We're going to have to see what happens. I think even in the next year, that's happening right now, that's an issue. So for the next 5 years, there will be a lot more automation, which will mean that things are going to get lost and people aren't going to be able to be seen. But it's all about getting the content out there to make sure that you're staying on top of things and that you're able to be visible, because I think some people will lose and some people will win in the next 5 years in the world of employment.
Understood. In terms of books or podcasts that influence you, can you just share with us ones that have influenced you the most recently?
I actually listened to a podcast recently called, I think it was Ultimate Performance, and it's actually a cricket podcast. And I'll tell you why I was told to listen to this. It's because it's all about it was all around, essentially, I can't remember, I'll tell you the name of the individual who was interviewed, because that might be relevant, if I can just get it. In fact, I can't remember, but basically the cricketer was faced with he was playing in the Indian, you have to forgive my cricket knowledge, and essentially lost and ran out Freddie Flintoff. I don't know if you're a cricket fan. And it was all about, and essentially the crowd, it was in India, so they started throwing onion bhajis at him, quite literally. And so it's a public shame, and how he overcame that. And he actually went into, he studied a master's to understand the psychology of how you can come back from a setback so publicly. So I found it really fascinating to hear about that. So I would highly recommend that.
That's interesting. There's so many links, isn't there, Claudia, between sport and business, and
Exactly. In fact, it's called Performance Intelligence, and it's with Jeremy Snape.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, what is the best advice you would give to somebody, a young person perhaps coming into business today?
Do you mean starting a business or just coming into business?
Let's just say starting a business.
Starting a business. I would say the key thing is have a lot of cash runway for yourself, because at least 6 to 12 months, probably even longer now, because you're going to find that it's it's harder than you think, especially in the market today. And I think you're going to really find that you're going to test yourself, and it's really important to have good support around you, from friends, family, and having even some exercises to do when you're feeling low and you're really struggling with motivation. I was recently taught about the downward and upward spiral concept, which is all around writing down everything that you think is going wrong and then finding ways to spin it around and make it positive and actually see the light. And I'm starting to use that even in day-to-day life, even when I hear about something negative. And I find it really helpful. So it's going to be way harder than you think that it's going to be. It's going to test you in every single way, but you'll learn so much from it, and you should be really proud of every part of the resilience that you do get from it.
Okay, excellent. Some great advice, great insights. Okay, last question. Any news or announcements you'd like to make?
Oh, probably just of the new. Well, firstly, we are launching our second series of our podcast, which is called the Scaling Up with Ortus Talent podcast, whereby we speak with VPs of people, sales, marketing in tech to understand how they scale businesses, the challenges they faced, and advice that they can give for the journeys of others in the same sort of situation. And we are launching our Women in Tech sales community in January this next year, 2024. So watch this space.
That's brilliant. And for any viewers that would like to connect with you, Claudia, how best?
LinkedIn. I'm on it every day, pretty much. Some would say it's an obsession. No. Yeah, Claudia Gassan. You'll be able to find me. I'm pretty much the only Claudia Gassan on LinkedIn. If not, just put Claudia Gassan LinkedIn or Ortus Talent into Google. I'm sure you'll find me. And I look forward to connecting with you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Claudia. And a big thank you for your time and your sharings and being so open. I really appreciate it. And I wish you continued success and as the economy improves.
Thank you
All
so
the
much.
best. Thank you.